Skyrim's Civil War is a topic that has been covered countless times in many, many videos, and has been a topic of discussion and even sometimes heated debate amongst Elder Scrolls fans for well over a decade now. This is kind of incredible considering that the actual quest line for the Civil War is overly repetitive and not even close to being one of the best quest lines from a story perspective in the whole of Skyrim. Despite that, Bethesda was able to come up with two sides that each have compelling reasons to side for or against them. Generally, proponents of the Empire will say that their victory would lead to a more stable and unified Skyrim, and that they're not as racist as the Stormcloaks, making Imperial rule better for many of the non-Nords in Skyrim. Proponents of the Stormcloaks usually cite that Stormcloak victory allows for Skyrim to govern itself, and provide religious freedoms for the people, allowing them to worship Talos, or as he is known in their Nordic pantheon, Ysmir. Regardless of the question of whether the Stormcloaks or the Imperials are right, most agree, and the game clearly points us towards the understanding, that the real enemy is the Aldmeri Dominion. Because of this, one of the primary arguments for siding with the Empire is that reunifying Skyrim under the Empire gives the best chance at defeating the Aldmeri Dominion in the inevitable Second Great War. If that is true, then siding with the Imperials is likely the best option for Skyrim, because victory over the Thalmor is pretty much best for all the residents of Tamriel. However, I'm not sure if it's entirely clear that that's the case. The Empire of the Mede Dynasty is not nearly as powerful as the Empire of the Septim Dynasty in the past. Despite having nearly 30 years to rebuild their armies and strength in preparation for a second Aldmeri War, the Empire still does not have enough troops to both defend their borders, while not even in active combat, and deal with a ragtag group of Nords in Skyrim. General Tullius believes that he could put down the Stormcloak Rebellion if the Empire would just provide him a few more legions of troops, but the Emperor wants to keep them all stationed in Cyrodiil, just in case of an Aldmeri invasion. You could say that this is the right move, because if the Empire were to spare too many troops, then they would open themselves up to Aldmeri invasion. But it's also fair to say that the Emperor is not taking the war in Skyrim seriously enough, and by allowing it to sit at a stalemate, he's weakening the Empire even more than he would be by providing the troops to simply finish it off. The dossier that we find during the main quest of Skyrim makes it clear. The Thalmor want the war to persist as long as possible, and it doesn't seem to matter to them who wins, so long as the war weakens them both. The events of Skyrim don't necessarily paint an empire that's back on the rise and almost back to its former strength. Instead, it shows us an empire that's struggling mostly even without the civil war going on in Skyrim. Back home in Cyrodiil, political strife has led to the potential assassination of Emperor Titus Mede, although we do not know if that's the canon ending yet. Formerly Imperial forts lay barren all across Skyrim and are largely populated with bandits rather than Imperial soldiers. I'm just not sure if this empire will be able to defeat the Aldmeri Dominion, at least not without a new and more powerful leader. I say all of this, not necessarily implying that the Stormcloaks are a definitively better option for Skyrim. There are plenty of ways that Stormcloak rule could also lead to utter destruction by the Aldmeri Dominion. Ulfric is a deeply flawed leader who is very unpopular with many in Skyrim. Even a Stormcloak victory might not guarantee a unified Skyrim. Many may remain loyal to the Empire, even with Ulfric in charge. However, the same is also true for the Empire. Even if the Empire ends up winning the Civil War in Skyrim, they will still have alienated plenty of Nords who still want to be able to worship Talos. If there's anything we learn in Skyrim, it's that Nords are incredibly stubborn. Those who still feel betrayed, the ones that followed Ulfric during the Civil War, would be less likely to want to defend the Empire during the inevitable Second Aldmeri invasion. The Empire has already alienated Hammerfell by releasing them after the events of the First Great War. Whether or not this was a necessary evil, many Redguards feel betrayed and are unlikely to try and come to the aid of the Imperials come another invasion. I think it's possible that a victory for the Stormcloaks could actually lead to the kind of instability required to change the regime in the Empire that would ultimately lead for the better. I can see a way where a Stormcloak victory could lead to the end of the Mede dynasty, or at least be a contributing factor to it, that would replace the Empire with a more successful leader and successful dynasty, one that would be more favorable to the Nords and would recognize them as a sovereign nation, and in return, the Nords would still be their allies. I think this could end up working better in terms of a human alliance towards defeating the Aldmeri Dominion, because a new dynasty, a new emperor, might also be able to regain the trust of the Red Guards. But regardless of who ends up winning the Civil War in Skyrim, I do think that it is necessary, and the likely canon ending for Skyrim will be a new emperor, either a continuation in the Mede dynasty that is better, or a new dynasty that begins after the end of the Mede dynasty, and that dynasty will be in charge come Elder Scrolls 6. Ultimately, though, we won't know for sure until the Elder Scrolls 6 eventually comes out, hopefully sometime during the 2020s. But until then, we can continue to speculate, to discuss, and to debate. But please do be respectful in the comments. Remember, these are video game politics, not real-world politics. It is not that deep. Anyways, thank you all again for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a like. And if you'd like to see more of this kind of content, please consider subscribing to the channel. Thank you again, and I hope to see you in the next one.